Hello, good morning, and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. As we do every year to the end of the year, when we look at the very last edition of the show, we will do, as usual, our corruption scorecard with a focus on the special prosecutor and the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Both have been speaking in the last couple of weeks and telling the world how they have been or will be fighting corruption. The President says he has done a lot of legislations, supervised a lot of anti-corruption legislations, and done what has never been done in the history of this country before in providing us the office of the special prosecutor to fight corruption. He says the police and parliament, which are also supposed to fight corruption, they are anti-corruption entities, if you like, have received over 100% increase in their budget allocations under his watch. Never before in the history of the country. The audit service has received over 80% increase. The judicial service, 51% increase. The attorney generals, 50% increase. Shraj, some 21% increase during his tenure. And he says this is a testament to his commitment to fight corruption. He says the digitization drive, spearheaded by the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is a clear, unequivocal signal that he is beating corruption to the game. What do you say? The special prosecutor says it is getting on its renewed fervor for 2022 to start activities to, quote, prevent, suppress, and repress corruption more efficiently and effectively than has never before done in this republic. Except that it needs money. What is your verdict? Parliament has been divided. It's become a place for the exchange of blows. It's become a place for throwing tantrums and insults by adults in a very important, august house. It become a place where they throw invectives at each other and shout unnecessarily. They have actually been breaking things also in that house. They have broken their own rules and broken the Constitution. The majority charges the minority charges the majority, and the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker also indicted of murdering the Constitution and the rules. So, how do you unite a divided house? Will Bagbing's final act, instructions, direction, and advice work? And is the e-levy dead? The NPP is at a conference. It will be examining the proposed constitutional changes, including why they should have elections to pick a flag bearer 2 years to the main elections. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. and I'll be inviting you to join me to the prisons.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Atta. You can catch up with all the fun and inspiration on the Joy Sports link here on Joy 99.7 FM, together with all other shows over and over again. It's very simple. All you need to do is go to myjoyonline.com/podcast and relive all of those fun moments over and over again. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
Welcome to Newsfile, and here is my take. Please follow me to the prisons. So, I get into the prisons perhaps not because I have killed anybody, not because I have stolen, but because I may have committed a traffic offense. Because unintentionally, I did something which doesn't affect anybody, but got me into prison. Maybe on remand. In fact, there are people who are in prison who are innocent. The system would have managed to get them into the prison, but they are innocent. In fact, there are people who, when they get arrested, they go to the first court date and they are remanded, and that becomes the end of them. In my LLB studies, I did a project and I called it the phenomenon of remandees turned convicted prisoners or convicts. There are people in our prisons whose warrants that took them there have expired, but they are there. Innocent people, I mean, could be there. We are all potentially liable to the prisons one day. My question is, if I went to the prison today, how would I like it? I have just been to the prisons, physically visited and seen the circumstances. It's not my first time. It's not my second time. And as you're watching, Seth Kwame Boateng has done various of these documentaries bringing us the situations in the prison. Prisons that are supposed to contain a total, in Ghana, a total population of about 9,000 something, have in excess of 13,000. And people are sleeping rough. How do they eat? What is their sanitation situation? When they are sick, the prison officers, the prison administration is doing its very best. But we can all lend a helping hand. Not because one day we may be there, but because we want the prison to be truly what it should be, to reform and not to harden people when they return, and then we run away and shy away from them. They are fed on 1 cedi 80 pesos for the whole day per person. These are adults. Imagine yourself having to live on 1 cedi 80 pesos a day. Take a look at this. I'll be right back and ask you to join me as I go into the prisons this Christmas.
According to the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners, all countries have an obligation to observe certain basic human rights standards in their prisons. Standards regarding the conditions of detention must be observed regardless of a state party's level of development. The UN demands a minimum floor space and cubic content of air for each prisoner, adequate sanitary facilities, clothing which shall by in no manner degrading or humiliating, provision of a separate bed, and provision of food of nutritional value adequate for health and strength. I decide to go around and check how far these standards are being met in this prison. The prison administration is supposed to provide inmates with food of wholesome quality. More than 1 cedi 80 pesos is needed to provide this kind of meal for inmates. For years, prisoners have been fed on 1 cedi 80 pesos daily. Director General of the Ghana Prison Service, Emmanuel Ajato, says this amount is woefully inadequate. Until all these things are done, inmates will continue drinking watery porridge without sugar and either eat their famous gari, which goes with a kind of colored water mixed with palm oil, supposed to be palm nut soup, or banku, which goes with what I would describe as improvised granite soup.
So what you just saw is just a tip of the iceberg. In the course, or before I finish the show, I will show you how they sleep, crammed together. Some literally can't turn as they sleep. We can all help. Let's not wait for bigger political figures and celebrities to get into the prisons and show up the next day and say they are doing a prison project. And often it doesn't get to anywhere. Look at this again.
Inside the cells, the picture looks horrifying. Human beings packed up in a room with not even an inch space between them. They have been carefully arranged according to the years they have spent in the prison. The leader of this cell, Isifu Musa, says there are names for each sleeping position.
Those in the middle are referred to as sardines because we have arranged them like the way sardines are arranged in a tin. There's no space between them. On my extreme right are the elderly and those who are not well. We call them tabo tabo. The aged sleep there. Those on my left, very close to the door, we call them pickups. They squat throughout the night. They are like passengers in a stationary vehicle. They can only get up when the gate is opened in the morning. For those on my left, very close to the wall, they have been here for over 4 years. Those under the bed are those who have not really stayed here for long. They have not gone beyond 2 years. 18. Inmates on the bed are those who sweep here and ensure the place is clean always. Some are also peacemakers. Those on the top are the leaders.
Right. And after Seth Kwamboateng has done these documentaries, they have brought some transformation. The prison service, the judicial service, more importantly, the state has embraced Locked and Forgotten and the subsequent other ones that Seth Kwamboateng has done. And many people, particularly those who don't deserve to be within the four walls of the prison, some of them have secured their liberty, but there are some more that need attention. Our society is safe and we are secured if the people who entered there return changed, return transformed. The purpose is to rehabilitate. The punishment they suffer for those who have actually been found guilty for committing crimes, the punishment does not include starving them. The punishment does not include getting them to sleep on empty stomachs. It does not include falling sick and not getting the necessary attention. I've seen how some of the prisons are improvising in the infirmary they have in their places. We can help. So, we can't change a hungry man. But this Christmas, can we reach out to them and let them feel a part of us? Can we send them some supplies? Can we get them some food? Can we send them some toiletries, some medicine that is required? Can we get them some provisions to feel a part of us? But I have a bigger project, getting a good number of my lawyer friends, so that we can also see to what extent we can help to get those who necessarily don't have to be there to be out. And to ensure that they don't get sick unnecessarily. The sanitation over there, they try. And the officers who are in charge, they do their very best. But we can help. You see the Momo number on the screen? Please type that Momo number now. Do me this small favor and make the smallest change that you have left a donation to me as I go into the prisons. So the Momo number is 059 303 8768. Is 059 303 8768. The merchant name is Multimedia Group, or you may see Easter Joy Easter Soup Kitchen. Please help, and it will be put to very good use. We are safe, safer, if the people who come out of this place feel that we love them and that we care and that they come changed. Thank you very much. All right, so I take a quick break. I return to introduce my guests, and we begin our discussion, starting on the corruption scorecard. The president has been speaking and touting how much he has done. The OSP says he will give us a corruption fight that we've never seen in the history of this country. The president says he's done far more than any other government has done for the anti-corruption crusade. What's your verdict? We'll be right back.
What's up, guys? My name is Sammy Forson, host of the Weekend City Show and Ignition right here on Joy 99.7 FM. Well, anytime you happen to be busy and you miss out on your favorite shows right here on Joy FM, here's what you can do. Log on to myjoyonline.com/podcast. Just go on there and you'll find all your shows on demand 24/7. There you can catch up. Remember, Joy FM remains your radio for discerning listeners.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Let's get to meet my guests this morning. And we'll be, that's those who are joining me to canvass these issues for you. In the studio is Abdul, Malek, co-editor-in-chief of the new Crusading Guide newspaper. Joining us via Zoom Kofi Bento, lawyer and senior vice president, Imani Africa. Mary Awalana Ada is programs manager, Ghana Integrity Initiative, the GII. And Yao Boabeng Asamoah, director of communications of the New Patriotic Party. Ladies and gentlemen joining us via Zoom, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning, Samson, and good morning to the rest of the team and to the listeners as well.
Right. Our other guests will join us in the course of the program. And I need to announce from the outset that my production informed me that in the course of the week, seeking to get a representation from the NDC, there have been some difficulty. And because of that, as we speak presently, there's no representation for the NDC. I say representation because the intention was to have an NDC person join Yao Boabeng Asamoah as well. Thank you very much. But you know that there have been many times that we have done the show, and according to your desires, not hosted politicians at all. Right. So let's hear the president briefly, and hear also the special prosecutor, Kisi Ejabing. They have all been speaking in the course of the last week because of the International Anti-Corruption Day as declared by the UN on the 9th of December every year.
Has undertaken arguably the boldest initiative since our nation attained independence nearly 65 years ago to reform and strengthen the capacity of our institutions to tackle corruption in the public sector. Charity, they say, begins at home. And that is why so far, every single alleged act of corruption leveled against any of my appointees has been investigated by independent bodies such as STRAJ, the CID, and in some cases by Parliament itself. It is not my job to clear or convict any person accused of wrongdoing. My government has undertaken arguably the boldest initiative since our nation attained independence nearly 65 years ago to reform and strengthen the capacity of our institutions to tackle corruption in the public sector. Charity, they say, begins at home. And that is why so far, every single alleged act of corruption leveled against any of my appointees has been investigated by independent bodies such as STRAJ, the CID, and in some cases by Parliament itself. It is not my job to clear or convict any person accused of wrongdoing or of engaging in acts of corruption. That is the job of the courts. My job is to act on allegations of corruption by referring the issue or issues to the proper investigative agencies for the relevant inquiry and necessary action, including, if required, the suspension of the affected official pending the conclusion of investigations. That is exactly what has been done since I assumed the mantle of national leadership on 7th January 2017. Thus it was that in 2019, I suspended the then acting head of the Public Procurement Agency from office after conflict of interest and corruption allegations had been leveled against him. Following recommendations from STRAJ, based on their investigation, I removed him from office in October 2020, and the Office of Special Prosecutor is seized with the matter of prosecution. If an appointee is cleared of any wrongdoing, the evidence adduced and recommendation made by these agencies after the investigations are concluded are what clear the accused persons, not myself. None of these agencies has ever indicated any pressure from the executive over their investigations. There are some who refuse to accept my method of proceeding and have characterized me as a clearing agent. Because for them, the mere allegation without more is enough to merit condemnation of the public official, even though they did not apply this principle when they were in office. For my part, I will not set aside due process in the fight against corruption, no matter how much opprobrium this incurs for me.
As part of its Pressure for Progress drive, an annual Ghana Corruption League table to assess perceived levels of public sector corruption in the estimation of experts and business people. In aid of this, public agencies will be ranked against each other on a corruption barometer, and the results will be published every 9 December. The OSP will vigorously investigate and prosecute cases of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses, and recover proceeds of such offenses through property tracing of tainted property and currency, in line with our vision of rendering corruption a costly enterprise. We cannot continue on the path of see no evil, hear no evil. Let us expose the evil of corruption. Let us eschew corrupt practice marked by undeserved attainment of wealth to secure undue advantage in all spheres of life to one of merit-based rewards. This is our sure chance to curb corruption. The OSP, ladies and gentlemen, has completed a review of all the alleged cases of corruption and corruption-related offenses before it. Currently, the OSP is investigating 31 active cases, and it will, in due course, commence the prosecution in the courts of the cases it considers probatively strong. There is no case commenced by the OSP pending in the courts at the moment. I inherited one court case, that is the Republic against Mahama Ayariga and another, which I discontinued in October, after a careful scrutiny of the available evidence led me to conclude that the Republic will be unable to prove its case on the standard of proof required in criminal cases, that is, proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Right, so you heard first the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and Kisi Ejabing, the special prosecutor, all talking about, President talking about what he has done, and Kisi Ejabing talking also a bit about what he has done and what he intends to do. He says 2022, he has about 31 cases that he's going to pursue and has reviewed all of them and has a number of other things to do, to the point he says he will be making corruption something that nobody wants to engage in. He's promising that in his tenure, he is going to commence activities in 2022, quote, to prevent, suppress, and repress corruption more efficiently and effectively than has ever been done in this republic, unquote. When the President was speaking, he gave a litany of legislations that have been done in his regime, the Right to Information Act. And sometimes I stop to ask myself, when the politicians are taking, glory for some of these things, sometimes it's a bit of a difficulty, because that law, for example, I can't imagine the pressure that was brought to bear before it was passed. And some of us who had the privilege of being made to help in the campaign, spearheaded by the coalition, the GII, and the rest of them, had to literally be on the floor of Parliament all the time to ensure that it was done. Well, whatever it is, he supervised and it has been done. He assented it as law. So he speaks about plenty laws that he has ensured have been passed. He talks about the digitization drive that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the vice president, has spearheaded. And clearly, I suppose we all admit that the digitization is something that helps to minimize corruption at the port, at the various places, at the courts, and all the other places where the human face is removed, human interaction is removed. So he speaks about that and speaks about the funding that he has given to anti-corruption bodies. The police have had about 160% increase in their budgetary allocations, he says. Parliament has had over 100% increase. He mentions several others, Auditor General, Judiciary, the Attorney General, Shraj, and the rest of them. So, what do you say? Let's begin with the people who have been watching this particular space all the time. Mary, what do you say about what the president feels or says his regime has done about corruption, and what the special prosecutor also says?
Very much, Samson. Let me proceed on the basis that the president is comfortably placed to proceed on the tangent he did, particularly if you look at what they said they would do in their first term per their manifesto, which was heavily skewed towards the passage of legislations to fight corruption. It is true that if it comes to the issue of passing laws that seek to fight corruption, this government has particularly passed a lot. It is also true that in the past we have sought to do same. If you remember, in 2016, the PFM Act was passed to strengthen what we had already with the Financial Administration Act. And so it's not just today we are passing laws. But then also, again, you as a lawyer would also agree that for a president who is a lawyer, passing laws would not be a challenge for him at all. What we need to all consider or speak to is the fact that laws in themselves do not, and let me say, do not implement or do not take away the challenge of the fight against corruption. We are all aware that since independence, we have tried as we can to put in place legislations that have the potential to nip the bud of corruption from our society. Thus far, we have come. We have not seen much. If you do a cursory review of what the NACAP document speaks to, we have put in place in several regimes draconian measures where people were killed for taking loans of 50 Ghana cedis at a time. People have gone to prison for others. Very, very, very insignificant complaints. We also know that in other governments, they've talked about zero tolerance for corruption and others. This, when it comes to implementation, actual implementation is where we have found ourselves wanting. And so for the president to say that he has done a lot when it comes to the area of legislations, we do not fault him at all. But we want him to proceed cautiously because legislations in themselves do not implement and do not bring about the success we all require. When the president talks about funding the institutions with some instances going up to almost 200 percentage points, if it is true, we do not have any evidence to say no. We are saying that what we need to see is the institutions doing a better job at the fight against corruption. Let me take Shraj, for instance. Shraj is the National Anti-Corruption Agency per our constitution, it's a constitutional creature which has a mandate to fight corruption as one of its 3 mandates. Today, we have less than 200 shrine offices across Ghana. And so if we are talking about resourcing the institutions to fight corruption, we would want to see a shrine that is located in every district, every of the 250-something districts that we have in this country. We would want to see a shrine that is so mandated that it can do its work without any challenges. And so we are talking about resources, but we are also saying that these resources are not enough. And mind you, the people of Ghana trusted that the president whom we gave our mandate to superintend the affairs of state would be as a matter of agency, as he promised us, fight corruption, resource these institutions, he said. And so if he is doing that, and Shrag is getting just about 20-something%, whilst others are getting over 100%, then we are saying that he should come again. And it's not just Shrag, it's the Yokos and others. Yes, some money is given to them, but is that enough? We again say that when you talk about the RTI law, this is a very fantastic law that has been passed, which is supposed to facilitate the acquiring or acquisition of information for civil society and also for the media, particularly journalists who want to do investigations. How is this law's implementation progressing? We have a commission which has been set up, and under the constraints with which it is operating currently, if I want to talk about some of them, we do not see, but they are doing some good work, and we need to encourage the commission for that. Unfortunately, the basic infrastructure, which the OSP talked about for 3 years, and for which he now has an office, is the same challenge the commission is grappling with. And so when we set up some of these mechanisms and we do not resource them enough to do their work, then we are setting ourselves to fail, because we need places where we can conveniently go when the public sector institutions, which believe that they have the right to continue to either ignore or reject our request for information, we should have an avenue to go to. And how many people know where they should go to when they need this information we are talking about? Let me conclude by saying that for the Office of the Special Prosecutor, his comments when he talks about the fight against corruption is going to ensure that he represses, he suppresses, and he ensures that he's fighting. We support him wholeheartedly. But let's remember that we are coming from a past where we have heard a lot of talk, which is not being complemented by action. And so we would like to tread cautiously with our optimism. We would want to see action. He says he's gotten about 31 cases, which he is currently investigating. At a point, we would want to know which of the 31 are corruption related, which he is pursuing to go to court with. When that happens, then we would begin to have the trust that this office is actually going to suppress, is going to repress, and is going to vigorously pursue the anti-corruption agenda. He says he has a 7-year mandate. Yes, the people of Ghana require that he gives us an update on a 6-monthly basis on the dispensation of that mandate. We would want to see if he begins and we see one case going to court and he pursuing it, then we would begin to also believe that it's not another case where we are seeing a special prosecutor in office for 3 years who has not been able to prosecute one single case as we had in the past. My initial comments,
right.
But to end, I would want to say that digitization again is the way to go. For the developed world and other countries who are doing a fantastic job in this regard, we have seen over time that in digitizing processes, it takes away the human factor. In digitizing, it helps us to seal a lot of gaps, and it helps with the generation of revenue or the increasing of such. But then, in our case, we have seen that some of our digitization agenda is being curtailed and is being suppressed by the institutions and the agencies who are supposed to promote and champion these. And so when the president speaks to the fact that it is not his business to send people or prosecute people or investigate people, he has a duty to submit these complaints to the appropriate agencies. We say, yes, we agree. But it is his duty as the appointing authority to ensure that when things are not being done right, people are called to order and people are sanctioned for wrongdoing by either asking them to step aside or allowing them to go, as he spoke to in his inaugural address in 2017, when he said public service is public service and not a place for making money. My initial comments.
Thank you. But the OSP, you speak about the 31 cases, wanting to know which one of these cases is finished with investigation and will be prosecuting. The special prosecutor says these are cases that he has finished work on and will be putting some before the court starting January, except that he doesn't want to name people because it is unfair and due process is not the best thing to do, to put the names of people out even before you hit the court and people start to speculate about them and say all sorts of things about them.
I believe, if I heard him correctly, I think I have also had other engagements as well where I heard that some of the cases, when he mentioned them, had to do with family issues, had to do with people's administrative injustice issues. And so I think at a point, some of these cases may not go to court. Not all the 31 would go. That's why I am saying that. But in any case, it is a fact that if he does not want to present people's names at this point, it is right that he wants to proceed on that tangent. And we support him, as I said in the beginning. But then what we would want to do, or him to do going forward, is to ensure that what he is giving feedback to Ghanaians, or the monitoring he has done, which is supposed to inform Ghanaians about, is such that when we pick it, we are able to say that, oh, the special prosecutor currently is going to court with 10 cases, and all these 10 cases have to do with issues that have a relation to corruption, as its mandate speaks to, or it has to do with issues around prevention that he is working on. It has to do with issues around asset recovery that he is going to pursue. So we want to see that happen, and we want to be told that, but to be told that 31, and then at the end of the day, you see only about 5 of them being worthy of pursuing, would be disappointing to the people of Ghana. So we want accurate information on some of those things.
All right. And you mentioned that we have had areas where we have had mantras like zero tolerance for corruption. President Mahama said corruption is mass murder. We have to deal with it. And you speak about all these times the politicians' emphasis or focus on passing of laws. And you say that is not enough. But that is the basis, that is the foundation, isn't it? The president talks about the many laws, the witness protection law. He talks about the OSP that he set up. He talks about the RTI. He talks about, the new change that has been made to the criminal, law, where some cases were tagged as misdemeanors, corruption cases were tagged as misdemeanors, and now have been appropriately tagged as, felonies, where the sanction is now a minimum of 12 to 25 years or so. He touts all of these. You don't think that, if anything at all, this is a good way to build the momentum to fighting corruption properly?
Thank you very much, Samson. I believe that at this point, I suspect you would agree with me that we do not need more laws. What we need is to strengthen what we already have. Let me quickly say that when he talks about the amendment of the Criminal Offences Act to make corruption a second-degree felony, if I'm correct, we already had a law, the Criminal Offences and Procedures Act, which already indicated that anybody who was found culpable of a corrupt act could go to prison for 25 years.
That's right.
And so sometimes we just want to go to parliament to just make the process firmer. Yes, fine. But we already had a law which we could operationalize. And for me, I thought it wasn't one of the critical things we needed to do because we already had a law to cover that. Again, with the Witness Protection Act that we passed, we have a whistleblower legislation that we are working with, which is not too effective as we speak. If you go to the institutions that are supposed to be receiving complaints and working on them, they will tell you that on an annual basis, we do not even receive 10 complaints, let alone to talk about perceiving dates. In the whistleblower legislation, we have a compensation mechanism which has never been activated. These are some of the things we should be pursuing.
Because the fund has not been set up.
Exactly. And the Attorney General has the mandate to implement this law, and the fund is supposed to be set up by him to be run. Again, let me quickly say that I was in another meeting where the Witness Protection Act issue came up, and I asked the question, do we have the agency that is supposed to ensure that this act is operationalizing, set up? This has not been done. Do we have its regulations passed? This has not been done. So it's not about just passing acts and ticking boxes to say that I said I'll pass this law and I've passed it. It's about actualizing the law and ensuring that it operates. And if we do not put in place the mechanisms and architecture to ensure that these laws are working, then we will be shooting ourselves in the foot.
Okay.
And will not be making any progress. And we continue to pass laws. And at a point, in some nations, I was doing a review of the ECOWAS protocol on the fight against corruption. And I realized that in some nations, we have laws, specific frameworks for fighting corruption. Just one law that fights corruption, and this is what they work with. We are fighting corruption with several different laws, and yet we have the challenge. Yet we see non-compliance. And those who put the people in those places are not doing anything to ensure that people are afraid to work, despite the huge number of laws we have passed.
So as far as you are concerned, these, legal procedure issues, like you said, we don't need more laws. What we need is making them the laws that already exist to bite. This, preaching, there's too much of it. For example, you mentioned the era of zero tolerance for corruption, which was preached by President Kufuor. Yet, he was accused. His era, whilst he was preaching this, he sought to undermine, independent anti-corruption bodies by setting up an office of corruption within his presidency. And it was clearly seen to be sort of a clearing agent, the tag that the president is uncomfortable with. And it was at this same time of this mantra that his own party chairman was involved, allegedly, in cutting cash in a pickup van into the presidency. So, as far as you're concerned, these things are useless. We don't need them. What can the president do beyond what he says is due process? Why is the expectation on the president to do something when the allegations come? What is he supposed to do?
The president he is supposed to do a lot of things. And let me say that it's not just from this president. It's been an issue we have continued to experience over time. People say a lot of things. They end up not doing much. Let me add again here that the UNCAC, the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, under the various reviews, and the first one clearly mentioned that when it comes to the robustness of our legislations and regulations to fight the canker of corruption, Ghana is in conformity with all of them, putting in place preventive measures, putting in place legislations, and it mentions and chronicles most of the legislations from our Contract Act to whichever we have. And so, it's not for the lack of the laws. And if UNCAC, the peer review, has stated this much, then it means that at a certain point, the leadership of this country, then I'm speaking to what exactly it is we should be doing, is to allow process to go on, which the president says he allowed to go on. But then at some point, people are investigating. Then the president comes out to declare that my people have been found not to be guilty. Why don't you allow the institution of state which did the investigation to make such pronouncements? When you do that immediately, you are interfering with the process. Okay. Particularly when we hear announcements about 2 days, and then in the next ensuing 2 days, you are already clearing such persons. But for the president to again say that all those of us who indicate the contrary and say that he has cleared people are doing the bidding of the opposition is very unfortunate. Let me add that Ghanaians are thinking that we are expecting that the president fulfills his mandate for which we voted him, and we trusted, let me say, we trusted the word of the president because we didn't have the contrary to go by, because it is trust. And for that trust, we believe that in whatever it is, when people are cited, let them step aside. And you have appointing authority. And just like it's happened in other places, let me say that in Malawi, in South Africa, and other places, when people are cited, they are asked to go immediately. It sends a signal that there is actually a zero tolerance policy when it comes to the fight against corruption. But if you remember, just about 2 months ago, we had issue with the Minister of Finance and some of the dubious dealings that had happened with the Sputnik and also with the contracts that brought about the airport, the antigen testing at the airport. We spoke vigorously to this, only to be ridiculed and spoken about and laughed at certain points. Parliament instituted a probe and made recommendations. Why are we not implementing? So for us, we said that when some of these things happen, and that is not all, there are a lot of instances that we go by. When we say this, we are making these calls based on what we have seen, based on what we have heard. And the evidence down there suggests that the talking is not commensurate with the action.
Thank you very much, Mary Awalana. Ada is with the Ghana Anti-Corruption, Ghana Integrity Initiative. That is the foremost anti-corruption institution, if you like, CSO in Ghana. And that is the Transparency International's wing here in this part of the world. Now, thank you, Yabuamia Samoa. I understand you have joined us. Do we have Kofi Bentil also joining us?
Samson, I'm here.
Great to have you. Hello, Kofi.
Yes, hello, Samson.
Great. So, what do you say? The president, from the outline he gives us, if you listen, you find that he has a compelling story of what he has done and contributed to the fight. And yet, his story doesn't seem to wash for, I don't know if I am allowed to say, for a greater section of the Ghanaian populace, because they don't seem to see the results of the things he talks about.
Yes, Samson, I'm one of those people who is quite disappointed about what has happened in actual fact. concerning the fight against corruption. I think as a country, we failed abysmally in the last few years. And it's on the background of someone like the president who we believed will fight corruption for many reasons. We cannot cite him, at least in his previous political life, as somebody who was corrupt. He said he's not corrupt. We believed him. He said he was going to use the Nance principle. We believed him. And so many things would give us hope that this was going to be a presidency that will fight corruption. Indeed, when President Kufuor declared a zero tolerance for corruption, some people laughed. But when this president said he was going to fight corruption, we actually did believe him. So maybe the expectations were quite high. And unfortunately, the performance has been abysmal. Of course, he is not the one to convict, but we all know that signaling when it comes to corruption is extremely important. And the signaling from this presidency and from this president has been very bad. Indeed, although he's not the one to go and convict people who are corrupt or whatever, he's also not the one to be clearing them and be making pronouncements about people who are under investigation. That really was terrible. And then even if he's not the one to convict, leadership requires you to make the right selections, and you will be judged based on the people you surround yourself with. This is the president who appointed the person to the procurement agency who was implicated in very serious corruption, all right? And it is not the first time. We know about the task force, If you consistently are found to be appointing people who are found to be corrupt, and in very grievous ways, right around you, it reflects on you. So it's unfortunate, but we have to say that the legacy of this president when it comes to fighting corruption will be terrible. And we need to say it as it is because we don't have to repeat these things. There's a lot going around. Today we have e-levy. And the basic thing about e-levy is
hold on briefly for me. Was it the suggestion that the president ought to have known that ABA-J, the procurement boss, will be corrupt?
No. The president ought to have done due diligence, and he ought to have picked incorruptible or at best good people who were not likely to be corrupt. And what I'm saying is that after the fact, if we find out that you picked somebody who was corrupt, it reflects on you. And if that is not the only time, but we consistently find, we cited the task force and a couple of other times that you tend to pick people who end up in these corrupt schemes, there is a certain reflection on you. So I'm making that point, and that's a matter of fact. Now, after they have also been found culpable of corruption, we find instead of you giving the signaling to work on making sure that it doesn't happen again, we find you clearing them. We find him making statements to the effect, as if to say it doesn't matter. And so I'm saying that, look, if we look at his own history as a person, it really doesn't suggest he's a corrupt person. But if we look at his presidency, what has gone on, his appointments, his appointees, his statements whilst in office, and the things that have happened whilst in office, the Auditor General was run out of office. And today we have a situation where nobody is talking about the the Public Accounts Committee. We have cases at the Auditor General, millions of dollars to be recovered. Nobody is talking about them. And we are going to use e-levy to raise new revenue. Okay, where is the waste and corruption discussion in our, financial matters? So look, let it be clearly said, and I'm saying so because we have to find a way not to repeat this.
Kofi, I still want to understand you. I still want to understand you on this point. So, ABA-J, when he was appointed, at the time of his appointment, his private bank account, according to the work by the Shraj and the OSP Martinamidu then, gave us the indication that his private bank account held only about 40,000 Ghana cedis. And at the time, Manasseh Azuriawene busted him. He had accounts that held in excess of 45 million Ghana cedis. That is within 3 years. And he used his office as a chief executive officer of the Public Procurement Authority to do these things. You are saying that the president ought to have known that he was likely to be a corrupt person and that he will sell contracts, he will set up companies on the side and do these deals?
Yes, he ought to have known. He ought to have known so let me explain how. He is the appointing authority. They work under his authority. Now, if the due diligence was done, then the man's proclivities or the man's potential to be corrupt may have been discovered. Let's assume that he was never corrupt until he got into office. During his tenure in office, over the 3-year period, when his bank account was going, this is what we have national security and whatever and all those things for, who are snooping on all kinds of people and tracking and chasing and, cloning phones and doing all kinds of things. So he didn't see it. And if he didn't see it, that is a lapse in the system. Now, after Manasseh, with very few resources, and look, the work Manasseh did was not CIA level work. It was straightforward. He walked into places, asked simple questions, things that any diligent person who was minded to find these things out would have found out. And Manasseh busted him. And when he was found out, even now, we are not sure where things are concerning that particular investigation. The statements coming out of the office, did not signal that this was a situation that, really concerned the presidency much. Now, as we speak, I have read a paper concerning the recent appointments regarding procurement board, etc., where the law has been breached. So I'm saying I have read that the paper by a procurement expert where the law has clearly been breached. People who are not qualified to be there are there. And we are not hearing much about that as well. So I'm saying that the acts and utterances of this president do not bear out the trust we held in him as somebody who was, going to fight corruption. Unfortunately, that is the fact. And it's particularly disappointing because he came in with very, very high credentials. And we thought this was our hope that somebody was going to really stand up and fight corruption. We should find a way to avoid this in future.
He has set up the OSP to go after the corrupt.
Well,
he has, as he says, funded the anti-graft organizations in a way that has never happened in the history of this country. That is his commitment. What do you say?
Samson, you and I know because we've been fighting for years for RTI, we fought for OSP and all those things. When it comes to fighting corruption, our leaders tend to make laws, set up institutions, and appoint people and then leave it there. Charge, the potential of these institutions to do work, real work, is somehow lost immediately after the law is passed, the institution is formed, and the people are put in office. And so you find politicians running over themselves, and Mary was alluding to that, to appoint people and do all these things. And after that, we don't see any action. It's unfortunate that the OSP has not seen any real anti-corruption action. And all these institutions you're talking about, we had a ministry for procurement, all right? And what did they do? So we have a plethora of these institutions. And I agree with Mary. We need to collapse all of them. OSP, YOCO, all of them should be collapsed, and let's leave only one and empower them. And indeed, with or without the plethora of institutions, if you have a leader at the top who is signaling the right things, we will be effective in fighting corruption. On the other hand, we can multiply laws and institutions onto ourselves, the law against causing financial loss, and we have all kinds of things going on, as you are aware. If we don't get the leadership, it doesn't matter if we have 100 institutions against corruption, we will still be a corrupt people.
But do you give him credit for the digitization drive he talks about, that he says is one sure way of curbing corruption? And the vice president has been on this, making sure that almost every institution where money changes hands and people interact, you reduce the human interaction and you are reducing corruption. Do you agree with him on that?
I absolutely agree with him on that. The digitization drive formalizes things. It creates a paper trail. It causes transactions to be tracked from A to B. And that is the greatest institutional and structural change that we can put in place to track people's wealth, like people's bank accounts. You can see it's there. You can even track where the money came from. And if you did some better investigation, you'll be able to find out even more. So for me, I think we should credit the president with that and also the vice president for championing that. Then again, it quickly comes to mind, why are we doing what we are doing to this digitalization with e-levy, which is going to run people back into this,
okay, so we'll get to e-levy.
So
we'll get to e-levy when we go to Parliament.
But we should not be clawing back on that.
Okay, thank you. Yabu, thank you very much. You must be very busy this morning, looking to see to a successful conference in the Baba Yara Sports Stadium in Kumasi. Thank you for joining us. Please unmute your microphone.
Samson, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much for having me this morning.
So what do you say that the president gives us evidence of over a dozen legislations, anti-corruption legislation, to tighten, as it were, where the holes are not properly tightened, and to put up the institutions that will fight corruption, and yet he doesn't seem to get any credit for that. He's not too happy about that.
Something I am very happy at what I'm hearing this morning. The ecosystem for fighting corruption is awake, because all of us have roles to play, and the critique, the appreciation, the understanding from outside sources, outside meaning that the people who are not directly in charge, is very impactful, because it is part of the process. Establishing transparency, external criticism, CSO involvement is all part of the process. I am very, very happy this morning to hear what's happening, because it's a process, and Ghana, if we continue along this line, we'll have one of the best anti-corruption environments in a few years to come. Now, if I may, I can say that the president, the executive and legislative authority in these matters rests first with the conception of the measures, and second with the legal rules they are able to establish, and third with the institutions that come out of the legal rules, fourth, the personnel to run the institutions. Then the operations become a matter of joint responsibility. We can't establish laws, regulations, institutions, staff the institutions, and the responsibility still remains with the president. And that's what the president tried to say earlier. I think it's a duty of those who are empowered by law and who are put in charge of institutions, thus empowered, to come out and be bold and fight this canker on behalf of all of us without fear or favor. And that's why I'm encouraged this morning. We are getting to the point where we are realizing. I listened to Mary very, very clearly, very consciously, and I listened to Kofi, my big brother-in-law. Not brother-in-law as in marriage, brother-in-law as in law. Samson, are you there?
That's right.
Samson, can you still hear me?
I do.
So what I'm saying is that as a society, let us count our blessings in the sense of an executive cumulatively over the years who have invested, one, in accepting the concept that we need to fight corruption and we need to develop mechanisms for doing so, and two, who have set up a plethora of rules. Yes, I heard Mary say that the rules are many, but it's important that the many rules are also enforced. So the plethora of rules, and three, institutions to implement those rules. Now, you also have people who have been appointed to sit in those institutions and implement the rules. So our difficulty as a society now, as a nation now, is operationalization, implementation. Where are we with that? Can we still wait? Should we still wait? Is it the duty of the president to still come and operationalize? Or can we say that the people who have been put in charge should themselves begin to be accountable? Because if you are not performing, you should be held to account, not only by the president sacking you, but by civil society pointing it out. A civil society saying they are satisfied with the work of Shraj and its leadership over the years. A civil society and its capacity to deliver A civil society saying that they are comfortable with Yoko and its performance over the few years. Shouldn't we begin to question, engage, analyze operationalization? Because that is where the crux of the matter is. Once you have the rules, once you have the institutions, once you have the personnel, and once you have the resources, even in terms of resources, you need to question, when we question whether the resources are enough, we need to ask whether they are enough for what or for what not. Can you pick low-hanging fruits? Can a little resource do a lot more if you are tightly focused, or you need everything you think you need? Because what is an optimal level of resource? We don't know. And that is why in crafting the Office of Special Prosecutor Law, what we did was that we tried to create a platform for optimizing resources and minimizing risk through the board that was set up. The board seats all the anti-corruption agencies in Ghana, including civil society. And in the last couple of years, the board chair of the Office of Special Prosecutor was actually from the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Madam Linda Kwaf. So what we are trying to do is optimize our social consciousness, optimize the environment, reduce risk together, and enhance capacity together.
You must have heard the Special Prosecutor, Kiseja Bing. He seemed poised. He seemed to be ready to do his work. But like he said, if you don't give him the money, all the good things he has spoken about will remain intentions. He's happy that he has a 10-story building, but only one floor is ready so far, and he's trying to manage. He doesn't have a board. He doesn't have a board. He needs money. He needs to have his own equipment and investigators to do the work. So if you, by law, make a beautiful edifice or institution and bring the money, you don't want to give him the money, how is it going to work?
Thank you. I have followed closely. One of my pet projects is the Office of Special Prosecutor. So I've followed closely its establishment and its progress. First of all, it is progress that we have a 10-story building. It is absolute progress because Martin Amidu started from a 3-bedroom house, as he famously insisted on telling us all the time. So it is progress. Two, I think that if you have one floor and you are still pulling in the money and the resources, you use the one floor to deliver. And how do I say this? If you haven't gotten all your if you don't have all your complement of investigators and prosecutors, that's why you have a board with institutions that specialize in investigation and prosecution and have the experience already. So
the board is not in place.
So, Mr. Kiseja Bing,
the board is not in place.
What?
He doesn't have a board yet.
Yeah. So that's a thing to do with the government. So we must push the government to deliver a board quickly. Because what I'm trying to say is that Mr. Kiseja Bing should utilize what he has and crisply zero in on perhaps 5 or 10 cases he can deliver, instead of going on a broad front to attempt 31 cases. Because then you would need a whole lot of resources you don't have yet.
This is a serious and sensitive office.
Yeah,
it's a security place.
Something. I'm not at this point saying that he is not right or he's wrong.
So if we believe in it, why don't we just make the funds available? Why do we want him to start piecemeal?
Strategically, first of all, a board shouldn't be the biggest hindrance. A board is the duty of the government, and the board is institutional. So all the government has to do is prompt those institutions to bring their people to the board. As I told you already, the board is designed to accommodate all the anti-corruption agencies. So fixing a board shouldn't be a problem. Now, if you fix the board, monies to build the office are on 2 fronts. First, monies to keep building and expanding the institution in terms of capacity expertise and all that. If that is not coming in fast enough and it's long term, you can still proceed on that front.
Yes,
and then
what he has been asking for, he's practically not getting. And as we understand,
I'm breaking down his needs.
As we understand, the government wants to know his spending, as it were, by the minute. But this is a security place. If I am going to investigate you, and you know that I have set aside this amount of money to investigate you, the finance minister, why should I do that? So why is he not being given what he needs?
Something. So I'm saying that his resources are on two levels. The first level of resource is that which builds the institution long term, institutionalizes his own capacity to investigate and prosecute, recruit people and train them to fill the 10-story building. That is a need, and I agree it's not been met yet. But I am also saying that if you have 31 cases and you have a need for institutionalization, then you may be fighting a broad front war that may not deliver. But you can narrow in what very little you have now and exploit and utilize your risk sharing. In other words, zero in on 5 cases, utilize Yoko, who is on your board, utilize NIB, who is on your board, utilize CID, who is on your board, and use your minimal resources to put those 5 cases in court. And then at the end of the year, you can proudly say that I prosecuted 5 cases and I won 3. So I'm making a case for more money to prosecute 20 next year. And that's very credible.
Okay. Hold on for me.
But I don't have anybody.
That point is made. Hold on for me. And let me come to Koku. But Koku, if I may start you on this note. As someone who is starting, the bureaucracy and the public service attitude. He's going to say, Yoko, I need this. Police, I need this. And they are looking and asking, who are you? Asking us to do this or do that. And we don't have as much trust in these institutions, and that's why we have set him up. So if the things that he is going to trail, these people also have an eye on them, where did we go?
Yeah, I've been doing a quiet monitoring of the Office of the Special Prosecutor in recent times, and I believe the president, and for that matter, government, must wake up and commit themselves to that particular project. Look, why should it take 5 months? Maybe there may be good reasons, but I am unable to, admit that a 5-month delay relative to inaugurating a board for that office is acceptable. I'm unable to accept it. Because we all know the essential value and the function of the board. Without the board being in place, there are certain things that office cannot do, even employing the personnel.
He, in fact, is going to be reduced to what Martin Amidu was saying. He is now paying attention to HR matters, administrative issues, when he's supposed to pay attention to the real fight.
Hopefully not, but I get your drift. And that is why I asked for the president and government to wake up. After the Martin Amidu saga, which was like an anticlimax to all of us, very disappointing, we ought not to repeat the same scenario. And I'm not here to allocate blame left, right, center. But as for the president, he has the ultimate responsibility to ensure that that creature of law, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, works and works effectively. Look, at this stage, the personnel, very few, ineffective. Even salaries, the salary structure, there's a challenge there. They've been negotiating something with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. And it's as if they want to treat them the same way the public service entities are treated. You see, we are forgetting the nature of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, a very specialized agency. of a security dimension. Even their payments and things, they are insisting that you should go through the gift miss. I'm sure you know about that. There too, there's a challenge. We've got to be creative. We have to be innovative. Look, corruption, to fight corruption is not an easy thing. It's not a routine matter, especially in the case in our historical context, from independence to today. The lady referred to somebody who went for a loan, 50,000. Of course, it's not exactly the correct picture, but I know what she was doing. We have even used the gun to fight corruption, and we failed in the anger, fury.
Yeah.
So if we set up such a specialized agency by an act of parliament, we ought to commit resources to its implementation.
So the special prosecutor has asked for money, and he's been giving something he feels is pittance.
Yes.
Because the kind of, facilities he requires to make him independent, to do what he has to do. Even one of those facilities, the money that he has been giving, may have to be spent on just one, and it's over. He doesn't have any money.
He needs forensic lab. He needs a cyber security lab. He needs to install some servers and all these things. And the kind of money being asked for, up to 1.2 million Ghana cedis, could take care of that expenditure for 2 or 3, 4 years. But of course, the system says, look, we have difficulties. So you take about 147 or so for the 2022 budget. My point really is that if we want to fight corruption, and I'm not for a moment doubting the commitment of the president or government to fighting corruption, but prove it. Okay, prove it. Because look at Kofi's skeptical cynicism and things. And Kofi, this is not a negative jibe at you. I understand where he's coming from. Okay, he's somebody who is being out there fighting.
Sounds frustrated.
Yeah, exactly, ma. That's why I can understand where Kofi is coming from. I don't share all the conclusions.
Because to hear him say collapse all of these.
Yes, understand.
That for me is surprising.
Yes, understand him. This is a very learned, experienced patriot. He loves his country, and you can feel it. So to be honest with you, yes, certain good things have happened. We need laws to fight corruption, but as the lady pointed out, we have sufficient laws, so the institutions we have them. But we are not resourcing the institutions enough. That's the point. So to be honest with you, because of all of us have been involved in this anti-corruption campaign for a long time. And sometimes it's distressing that you only end up repeating yourself. See, let me just deal with one specific, and that's where some of my differences with Kofi is. The public procurement board matter, the ABAJ matter. When Manasseh's documentary was put on air.
Contracts for sale,
August 21st, 2019. The following day, the president reacted. Was the following day, August 22nd.
Suspension.
Yes, suspended him, wrote to Shraj, and Shraj, relative to the conflict of interest angle, sent the matter to the Office of the Special Prosecutor relative to the allegations of corruption, and asked that they should trigger investigations into those things. A year or so later, Shraj brought a report, 27th October 2020, to the president. He accepted.
And sacked him.
Yes, and sacked him. And then said, well, Office of the Special Prosecutor, proceed with your investigations and prosecutions if possible. Kofi's view is the due diligence prior to appointment. And I saw the drift you were coming from. Look, there is no due diligence that could be perfect, 100%. They call, especially relative to the element of the human nature. You couldn't predict. ABAJ has a very fine record in terms of public service. There was a time some allegations were made when he was at the Ghana Water Company and things. Those allegations were investigated and proved to be false. So in terms of his public record, it's a very fine one. And in terms of the expertise, when it comes to public procurement, is one of the best. I'm not talking here about the moral angle that came out. But if you are talking of his professionalism, his knowledge, his expertise, He's one of the best.
Yeah, we all relied on him.
Yes.
You know.
So all those could have factored into the appointment. And then subsequently, a journalist does investigations and certain things come out. What else do you expect the president to do? If indeed the president had not acted the way he acted, triggering investigations through SRAJ and the Office of Special Prosecutor, suspending him and subsequently sacking him, I would have found the president guilty and be siding with Kofi. But otherwise, Kofi is expecting him by the context, the logic of Kofi's drive is that the president ought to be like God and be able to read into somebody's mind and heart what the person would eventually do.
How does the state explain why such a person is still not prosecuted? His stolen monies, quote unquote, have not been taken away from him. Property that he may have made, you know, through the 3 years that he had only 40,000 in his account, but managed within that period to mobilize as much as, you know, 5 million and more.
I'm happy
that these properties have also not been taken away.
I'm happy you are a lawyer and you are the one asking me these questions. All those must go through due process. Even if the journalist has exposed the man's quote-unquote corrupt posturing or activities, you must take him through the process. As we sit here, SRAJ has finished its job.
Yeah.
The matter is really seized by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. I don't think we've seen any report from there. I don't know, maybe the incumbent can tell us. Was there a status report on the Special Prosecutor's investigations into corruption allegations? Prosecution is not done by the president, you know. Attorney General, of course, does it. But in this case, I think the Special Prosecutor's Office is seized with the matter. I'm not going to ask the president, why has this case not gone to court? I would rather want to go to the Office of the Special Prosecutor and ask.
And there are a number of cases. You know, the Australian visa scandal, talk about the Anansis investigation, about a gentleman in the presidency. And it's surprising.
I thought I was going to outline.
It's surprising that as we talk about ABAJ, the special prosecutor had in fact frozen his accounts. But because of the lull in doing things, those that were supposed to ensure that that money was still frozen, not the special prosecutor, left the ball. And as we understand, he must have taken all his money out of the place.
Let's focus on those agencies and their managers who ought to have triggered the right processes.
These are serious national security issues. The president must have an eye on them.
Yeah, you know, but do you really need the president to ask the special prosecutor to prosecute, to conclude investigations and prosecute? Are we really interested in getting that
entity
scenario?
That was supposed to ensure that his money stayed frozen, which is not the OSP at the time.
Yes.
Who is in charge? What has the president done? Does he know that he's been able to manage to take his money away?
Well, I don't know. If the person has withdrawn any money, I don't know.
I don't know if
assets, you know that for a fact.
Will he be concealing them by now?
Yeah, so why? Okay, I see where you are coming from. Maybe you are asking that the president should be interested in that. If there's nothing happening, then he ought to sack those person he has appointed.
Because he appoints them.
Yeah, but even then sacking, we all know it goes through a certain process. This is the kind of democracy we've given to ourselves. You don't get up tomorrow morning after electoral dream and sack somebody. We go through a process. But I think whilst we can legitimately ask questions of the president, we also ought to start asking questions of those we have put in place of some of these institutions. Unless they are telling us that the president has imposed an embargo of action on them. They are being paid salaries every month. They are getting all sorts of privileges and benefits. And they are there, sitting in the offices. What are they doing? They ought to be, and that's why the lady even asked for a status report relative to the office. And it's in the law, it's even in the act.
That's right.
Okay, so yes, I have no difficulty people asking the president questions and pushing him. But those who have put in place, for instance, the Galamsey thing you spoke about, I know the Office of Special Prosecutor began some investigations. There was even a conflict between them and the CID, which was messy. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, what was the status of that case when Martin was exiting? What is the status of that case now? Yes, of course, that thing happened to somebody who was working within the presidency. If you asked that the president should be a little bit more interested in that, I'll go along with that point. At least just casual, find out. You have officers who are in charge. What is going on with this particular case? Because it comes back to integrity of the presidency. Okay, so that's a good point. Look, the visa, so-called visa, Australia visa scandal. I cannot understand government as well as the police. I don't understand. They have concluded investigations. They have pinpointed those who did what. They even had a list of people they had to send to the courts. And I've said this many times, that why have they not published that report, at least? Because it keeps coming up. People keep asking. That's one of the so-called scandals people cite. Meanwhile, the Ghana CID has completed the investigation. They had a little challenge with the Australian government in terms of exchange of information. The Australians' position was that if we are going to use it for prosecution, then we are unable to give you all the details. I found that a bit weird. But the report is available. I have a copy. But I have decided that it's not my responsibility to do that service for anybody. I've actually told the gentleman, the former deputy minister of Youth and Sports, Piles, that go access a copy and on your own put it out there. But you see, are we talking of just the publication? We're also talking of the prosecution, because they listed people, names, addresses, and sent a docket to the Attorney General's office for prosecution of those persons. That's not my job. That's their job. See, there are other things the president was right on. Look.
So these high profile issues, diminish the things the president talks about.
It doesn't help them. So I blame government communication to some extent. For instance, the Ken Bond thing. We made so much noise. This program dealt with it extensively. It went to Shraj. Shraj ruled on it. There was an aspect that Shraj went in that they didn't have to go in. So it ended up in court. But clearly, that case died. The finance minister was vindicated. We were waiting for the Luxembourg and the Department of Justice angle that the NDC said they had sent, and nothing came out. The cash for seat, Parliament sat on it, open. It was live. We saw the conclusion. That Boachi Ejaku bribery thing, we saw the conclusion. So there are aspects that the president was right on, that have been investigated by the appropriate bodies. Look, the Shraj, Kulebu, A+ allegations.
Right.
It went to Shraj, CID investigated, some youth group took it to Shraj. Shraj vindicated the two deputy chiefs of staff.
The police also did.
Yes. In fact, there was a coincidence of the CID's findings with the Shraj one. It coincided. There was an aspect that Shraj declined jurisdiction. That audio, that video, the tape of former CID boss conversation.
But the questions of perception and people's difficulty, if you take the Australian visa issue, for example, people can't believe that some things are so glaring that you can come back to us with a report that suggests that this person is not liable, is not culpable.
You better read the report, because the report has what it takes to let you know that the Deputy Youth and Sports Minister was not culpable.
People can't believe that.
Well, they are entitled to their disbelief.
Okay.
Unfortunately, due process requires that we give everybody fair hearing and that we must come out with facts.
Is what the president's saying now, does it match with what he was preaching when, it was all gun blazing against Mahama for being, superintending unprecedented corruption? President is saying due process. I won't do what you are asking me to do. I'll not just act on mere, allegations to do things.
Oh.
Does it match with what you were saying in campaign?
I'm sure if you go through our political history, there is no presidential candidate who has not done what you are suggesting, or no president who has said that I don't have to go through due process. They've all said so. And indeed, that's the fact. You must go through due process. It is not a kangaroo regime. We've witnessed, some of us were supportive of the June 4th insurrection. And we know the legal system that was applied. Okay? Yeah, so we've moved from there.
Right. This what I'll do. Lady and gentlemen, I'm coming to you for just 2 minutes each of a wrap. What your commentary will be on the fight from the front of the OSP and the presidency, what we should be looking to, what they should be doing right going into 2022. So 2 minutes each, organize your thoughts and deliver that to me. So we take a break and return to go to Parliament and look at the issues coming up from there. So, Mary, start with you. Please unmute.
Okay, sir.
Good, go ahead.
Right, so something for me, let me start with the OSP. He has a mandate, and the mandate is a legal person. He has the understanding of the office. He has the competency to deliver on that mandate to ensure that he's investigating corruption. And this time we are calling on him not just to investigate, but then to quickly as possible begin prosecutions, which he has promised the people of Ghana on TV and on the radio that he's going to do. Again, the issue of corruption in Ghana, we have not done too well when it comes to asset recovery. So we want to see some processes being initiated in that regard as well. And I'm very sure from what Kweku has indicated that with the contract for sale issues, we all know what has happened with the freezing of accounts and with some of the things that have gone on. This can affect the fight against corruption if our institutions of state are not proactive enough to quickly activate their mandate to ensure that frozen assets are frozen, or assets are frozen, to ensure that investigations go on. And when the people are not found culpable, they are given back their property. Otherwise, the state is the gainer of such. Again, we would want to see the Office of the Special Prosecutor putting in place its preventive protocols, because it's important not to just go after the corrupt, but also ensure that he is working together with other institutions of state mandated to fight corruption or prevent corruption, to ensure that the people down there are capacitated enough to report wrongdoing. It is a fact that people have become so apathetic because of our past and because of some of the repercussions they have had to suffer. If you go out there into public service and you ask people questions if they are willing to fight corruption, you would be very sad to hear some of the results that have come up. Again, let me say that we want to report corruption and we want them to be pursued, so they should do that. The presidency, as a matter of urgency, should begin to walk the talk, because so far the rhetoric has been the case. And we continue to say walk the talk because we have had instances that have been spoken to extensively, advocated extensively, which have not seen any action. We have had issues like the PDSs of our time. We have had others, the Maritime Authority, the GR. Sometimes you see people being elected to go quietly, and then the issues are not dealt with. And the issues around the Minister of Finance, Minister of Health, and the issues around procurement. If we are to fight corruption, for me, the presidency would have to come again on the issues around single sourcing, because he told us that one of the things he would do is to ensure that single sourcing is not the norm. But we have seen that the contrary is the truth. So he should begin to show action.
All right.
So that we say that, yes, what the president has said, he's living his word and not just doing, because he mentioned some figures at the anti-corruption day presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary. And let me hear from Kofi Bentil also. And it's heartwarming to hear the majority leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, buy into the NDC's proposal for a certain decoupling of the Electoral Commission, because the Electoral Commission has an anti-corruption aspect, which role it doesn't play at all. It goes to sleep and just wait for elections and organize elections and goes away. Checking the political parties and their financing. Political parties in opposition have always been poor. Some time ago, this time, the NPP is organizing its conference, and, there are no problems. They are not asking anybody to contribute a peswa. But in opposition, we get to know how even raising 1 million was a problem. Now they can organize these conferences every year. When in opposition, sometimes you have to, even abandon organizing it at a point. Where do they get the money from? The EC is not checking them. So Chairman Sabonsu now supports the NDC's proposal for the EC to just take care of elections and have another body to ensure that this policing goes on. Yes, Kofi, in 2 minutes, what will be your concluding comments?
Right, Samson, you went to the EC issue. You are aware that we took that matter to court and we have a judgment.
That's right.
And
that's right.
It's requesting the EC to publish political party accounts. They have not done it.
Yourself and Nana Kwesi were correct?
Yeah, Nana Kwesi and Citizen Ghana Movement, actually.
Right.
And these things all lie there, and they are aspects of the corruption fight. We felt that was the root of fighting corruption, political party financing. And we went to court, got that judgment, and somehow, they refused to do it. You fight to a point, and then, that is why I'm frustrated.
I hear you.
Okay? That is why I'm frustrated. And, let's be clear about this. We all know what we felt about this president coming in, and we know what we are seeing. Okay? The truth of the matter is there is a principle of ultimate responsibility. And that principle, it's true everywhere. If it's happening under your watch, you are responsible for it. So I understand the excuses, but there's some glaring things too. You mentioned the Galamsey thing. It happened right there. You mentioned the Australian visa. Now, why don't they push and let's get to the bottom of these things so people will know? And then look, the presidency was actively involved in pushing out Domelevo. We will never forget that, because it took a lot of fight for people like myself, OG, and all kinds of people to fight to strengthen the Auditor General's office. And we got a person like Domelevo who was doing the job, and there was an active push to get him out, and they got him out. And the work he's done today is coming to naught.
And the Auditor General we have now doesn't seem to be interested in the surcharge and disallowance
totally procedure.
Interested.
Let's say
it is now in the 2020 audit report that I see him hint that he may do surcharge and disallowance.
Yes, what a surcharge.
He has set us back 10 years. 10 years of our work. Some of us risked our lives on the street. 10 years of work has been just washed away. And that is why I'm frustrated. What should we do? And I keep saying that we are risking our democracy with this joke around fighting corruption. Because when everything like what we have done, go to court, be on the street, fight on radio, fight on TV, confront politicians, do everything. When that fails, there's only one thing left. And we've seen what that did. Because you and I were here, we saw what happened in Rawlings time. Okay? And we don't want that to happen again. Which is why we all must be up and doing about this thing. Look, if you want to make money, don't go into public office.
Be careful before you are charged with treason.
Even if you are in public office and you do your job well, you will be sufficiently taken care of.
I've cautioned you.
Public officials today,
don't say I didn't caution you. Be careful before you are charged with treason.
Why? What have I said? I repeat, if you want to make money, don't go into public office.
Okay.
And I repeat, our public officials today are better paid than private sector people. Go and check.
All right.
So what is it?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now
anyway,
let's
it's
hear
about the principle of ultimate responsibility, and I think our leaders going forward should show by example that they mean the fight against corruption.
Yes, Yao, 2 minutes to you.
Maybe the mic is busy.
Please, your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Something I again will say
that I am encouraged by the discussion, because we are all zeroing in on operations, that we must all get involved in operations, that it is important that beyond the operations, step up to the plate and deliver. And so we shouldn't be afraid of any boundaries. In fact, there are no boundaries. And I repeat, there are no boundaries. We must, after the politicians have put things in place, open up the envelope and fight for operationalization. So I am going back to the Office of Special Prosecutor. I am telling Kiseji Ebing, use your power and zero in and deliver utility with what you have. And that will bring everybody behind you to get what you need. Beyond that, all the other agencies, Shraj, all the others, our society must question what they have done so far. Because if we all wait on the presidency, we won't get that far.
Okay.
And that is where we are coming from.
Thank you.
So we are in the position where all of us must operationalize and deal with the issues and challenges of operationalization.
Thank you very much. And yeah, Boabian Samoa is coming from the background of anti-corruption crusade work.
Yes.
Before he got into active. Yes. Right. So, Koku.
Yeah, just a quick one. For matter of education. Can the Auditor General be compelled by law, especially against the backdrop of the Supreme Court decision relative to the Occupy Ghana initiative? Can they be compelled by law to undertake what the Supreme Court said? Really?
Certainly.
Yeah. So you see,
Certainly.
there's a situation, if there's any hint of them not committing to the disallowance and surcharge, that perhaps we'll focus on that institution, focus on its managers, and get them to do what the law says they should do.
But why should us, private individuals, be put through that trouble of having to go and sue state institutions and get them to do things?
I'm suggesting it shouldn't be the president calling him to do that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
you are suggesting individual private initiative to go and compel them. Why should we always be doing this? We even pass laws, we don't implement, and it takes the individual private citizen to go and compel the state to implement the laws.
But we are still paying the Auditor General. We are paying him.
Yeah, that's right.
Your tax money
is
being used to pay him. So you have an interest. If it's not you, the individual, there are civil society groups that believe in good governance. It should be a collective effort. I'm not saying that the government we've elected must abdicate its responsibility.
That's right. Well, the Auditor General, in his audit report for 2020, he has discovered that we have lost in excess of almost 3 billion Ghana cedis as a result of irregularities committed by state institutions. And when they say irregularities, some of it is pure thievery, people stealing. And I've been reading the report, how people in your districts, obscure places are stealing money. And we are just watching. We are not surcharging them. We are not disallowing. We are not prosecuting them. We'll be right back to get into Parliament. And for those of you who have been sending messages asking for the Momo contact for my project, Follow Me to the Prison Change. What change do you have? What little can you offer? Please send it to 059 303 8768. The Momo number is 059 303 8768, and the merchant name is Multimedia Group. Thank you very much. We are all potential persons who can find ourselves in the prisons, even when we may not have done anything wrong.
Exactly.
They should not be starving in Christmas. And for those that can get some help and are clearly not, found themselves foul of the law in some way, we should try and get them out. Don't let them come out worse off than they went in. We are collectively safer if we show them love. Please send your donations to my project. And for those of you who may want to send us any products, yes, you can do so. Just call any of Joy FM's lines and inform them that you want to help us with any provisions or food stuff, and we will attend to you. The number to call is 030-2211-688 and 030-2216-504. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Lexus Bill, host of Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM. Listen, you don't have to worry if you miss Drive Time or Personality Profile. It's going to be live on our podcast page. Just log on to www.myjoyonline.com/podcast. You can listen to Drive Time, Personality Profile, and any other of your favorite shows on Joy FM on that page. You don't have to miss a show at all. Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. I'm your host, Samson Ladi Anyanini, and we thank you all so very much for keeping faith with us over the years and throughout the year. This is the final edition of the show. We will end the show at 12:30. And as you can see, the final edition, I'm dedicating it to you, helping us to help other people who have critical needs. And so the numbers that I put out earlier, if you want to call us to pick up some toiletries, some provisions, some food stuff, supplies, please let us know. If you want to bring them to us too, we'll be very happy about that. It's 030-2211-688 or 020-2216-540. You call and talk about the prison change with Samson Ladi, or follow me to the prison. That's how I target. You can also send us some money, and you do that by Momo. What change can you let go? Send it to Momo number 059-303-8768. 059-303-8768. That is the Momo number to send us your contributions. Thank you very much. I'll be very happy about that. The show is brought to you by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go. At Chelsea University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, seeing is believing. Waylead Properties, home is where one starts. Star Assurance, your solid partner. DBS Industries, we truly are your roof experts. CBG, we stand with you. Fabrimental, your partner in steel. Rehoboth Properties, quality housing for all. Trazaco Fast Floors, stronger, faster, and affordable. And now, let me share some of your messages with you. What is your take about the fight against corruption and what the president has been touting? Godfred in Tema says that if the president appoints people to run anti-corruption agencies and then provides budgetary allocation funds for them to work, what else must must his responsibilities to ensure that corruption is fought head on? I believed the heads of these institutions must stop the political patronage, talking and do their work, not in populist manner, but according to the laws establishing them. That's what they are paid to do. They must take the cases in smaller chunks to be more effective, not chase over 30 cases at a go. With what resources? Office holders must learn to prioritize their task to be more efficient. Simple, really. Momuni Nuhu says, the problem of corruption in Ghana today is the smart nature of government now manipulating and putting party people in state institutions that are supposed to fight corruption. And the instructions now turn government cover. If we don't check going forward, will be worse. Well, the political parties, when they come, they put in their people. So I don't know about that aspect. They will always appoint their political party people. Sometimes very sad. People who are not qualified at all, simply because they have a party card. That's the license to get an office. Cecil Osei says, I agree with Samson and others that the president is ultimately responsible for all issues pending. Security briefings should elicit questions and actions from Nana Akufo-Addo on the performance of his appointees. Effective supervision should work for us. Kojo, and you put into brackets Hebrews 4:16. Principles of ultimate responsibility, as Mr. Bento has put it, is a thing about all this corruption drive. Akosia says the office of the special prosecutor became ineffective to me when there was a neutral person manning that position. The government couldn't tolerate the fact that the prosecutor went in for his own people and acted otherwise. Prince Henry in Koforidia, as you are sending these messages, please send me some Momo too, I beg you, and follow me to the prisons. When you are typing the messages and sending them, you send me some Momo at the same time. Prince Henry Koforidia says that, Prince, you say that, what is the status of the Australian visa scandal? What is the status of the missing Aboboya, which took place in the northern part of Ghana? Nana Akufo-Addo had woefully failed many citizens in terms of the corruption fight. Mike Ajiman says, you have listed a plethora of institutions and laws to fight corruption. You sacked the Auditor General who was chasing your senior minister to pay back state money. Your SP described you as the mother serpent of corruption. What else can we say? Citizen Yao says the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act has given the power of appointment to the president, and he may decide to delegate it. With this in the act, which is a problem from the I don't get it. You say constitution. The office won't perform. Close down OSP now and repeal the act. I think that's too much to ask. A.B. Mens, you say, that's A.B. Mensah, you say, when Martin Amidu made revelations about the OSP as a cover-up to fighting corruption, we lambasted Martin Amidu for not fighting for his office. He's been vindicated today. K. Amofa says, why is the OSP also installing some systems all the other anti-corruption agencies already have? Can this country ever solve any problem? We keep on repeating same things and expect different results. Which country develops like this? Well, the OSP says he wants to act separately, and that's the purpose, special purpose vehicle. If everybody sees what he's doing, they may alert, some criminals to get off. K. Amofa, you again. Let me take another one. Okay, so you say politicians think we are fools. You set your questions, answer, and score yourself higher marks. Funny. You mount podium, then starts to praise yourself. We, the citizenry, have the sole responsibility to judge your presidency, Mr. President. Reverend Lucky Soglo says the impression is being created that everything is in place to fight corruption in this country, but then the institutions are the ones failing us, which is untrue. We know that the interference from the executive is the reason we can't actually deal with corruption. And Dr. Charles Rekubrobe says that perception is illusionary. Conviction is reality. Success in fighting corruption should be measured by deeds, not words. 12 billion Ghana cedis exposed public sleaze is sobering measure of abject failure. Okay, so it's actually more than 12 billion. That's what the Auditor General has found in its 2020 audit report. All right, now Let's go to Parliament. A few things happened when the Speaker returned, and he seems to sound conciliatory and wanting things to move forward. Will they move? Will the two sides take a cue in that regard? Let's listen to the Speaker briefly and return to have this discussion.
I will not, and I mean what I say, I will not superintend over a parliament to frustrate or obstruct government business. I will not, and I mean what I say, I will not superintend over a parliament to frustrate or obstruct government business. But I will equally not preside over a weak house or be tagged as an errand boy of the executive arm of government. This house is fully focused in discharging its mandate and will do so without any fear or favor, affection or ill will in ensuring the ultimate best interest of the Ghanaian people is served. The failure to raise an objection for a lack of quorum does not mean decision taken on that day are invalid, are wrong, or not legitimate. It is my belief that Honorable Papa Osu Ankuma premised this view on a point of law. The issue of quorum is on members present in Parliament and not on the floor or in the Chamber of Parliament. Please, you can refer to the articles I mentioned. Similarly, the actions of the House on Tuesday, 30th November 2021, bring into sharp focus the powers of a Deputy Speaker vis-à-vis that of the Speaker. But who am I to say my deputy, the first Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Member for Bekwai constituency, Honourable Joseph Osei-Usu, the wise, well, he didn't join our group, the three wise men, he didn't join us. So he's still Joe Wise, not wise man. Who am I to say that he might have indulged in an act of misconduct? Tantamount to insubordination. Honorable members, we are however faced with a serious challenge because of the attempt of the country to marry the two different systems, the Westminster model and the presidential system. The actions of the House on Tuesday, 30th November 2021, bring into sharp focus the powers of a deputy speaker vis-à-vis that of the speaker. But who am I to say my deputy, the first deputy speaker, the honorable member for Bekwai constituency, Honorable Joseph Osei-Usu, the wise.
So Speaker Alvin S.K. Bagbing is back, and his instructions are that he says that he has met leadership, he has met people in government and so on, and this is what he expects. So I'm reading the last part of the statement that he read. So he took time to take record of everything that has gone on so far, indicts his deputy for doing the wrong thing in counting himself to form a quorum, to pass, to rescind, as it were, to reject the budget that had been rejected, so to speak, and to restore it. So he said, in that vein, the leadership and I agree the following steps be taken. 1, the minister responsible for finance comes before the House with an amended statement of the budget with the said modifications and concessions. As you have followed, some concessions have been made and modifications have been made. The minister has written a letter to that effect. So he says he should come back with an amended budget that captures these developments. 2, these modifications and concessions will then be adopted by the House, and the revised document with the estimates will stand committed to the various committees of Parliament. And 3, I am aware the committees have begun consideration of the estimates. It would thus be their responsibility to reconcile the revised estimates with what they have hitherto considered and submit a report for the consideration of the House. And he urged them to continue to strengthen their channels of communication, foster dialogue, encourage broader stakeholder consultation, and allow the process that they have started, they have adopted for the democracy of Ghana to thrive. So, Kofi, let me start with you on this. How do you see Parliament resolving everything that has occurred so far? There were fears that there will be another motion when he returns and so on. It does appear that will not happen.
Well, the Speaker has engaged in what I call elegant ambiguity. He has said a lot of things, supposed to have clarified some things, but concluded exactly where we started. It is not clear what should be done going forward. He is asking for the minister to represent the budget. He's still saying that what Joe Wise did was not necessarily wrong. I'm not even sure what he means by that. Because make a note that the Speaker agrees with me. Last week I said that Joe Wise shouldn't have counted himself because there was a sequencing issue. Now, there are matters of law. If that is true, then things flow out of that. Now, what is flowing out of that is why the Speaker is saying the minister should come back. If that is so, then it means what Joe Wise and co did was moot. So that ambiguity is not helping anybody. We should clarify. And I honestly still believe that to settle this matter once and for all as to how the Deputy Speaker should organize himself concerning counting himself or in situations or stalemates like this, we need the Supreme Court to make a ruling on a number of things. Now, are we therefore in a situation where the budget has been passed or not? Elegant ambiguity. We are not clear. The minister is going ahead and Parliament clearly is tolerating him. The Speaker's rulings suggest that he has to come back again. Does he reverse the process, or does he reverse the progress that has been made so far? And which aspects must he repeal? The e-levy is going through the motions as we speak. So honestly, we are not helping each other. I think that if the Speaker believes that Joe Wise shouldn't have counted himself, then he believes that that action, that activity, that day, what decisions were made were not lawfully made. To that extent, he should be clear and put a roadmap down. When he said, please represent the budget, he should have been emphatic about it, that if you don't represent the budget, his ruling, what I call the Bagby ruling, is the one that persists. To that extent, therefore, some of the things going on will hit a snag somewhere down the line. He should be clear. And if for some reason he cannot be clear, somebody should take this thing up and go to the Supreme Court. I think a parliamentarian should do that. They shouldn't leave it to civil society
so
over again.
The appropriation bill has been passed, except that the question of the e-levy remains to be dealt with somewhat. And the minority leader issued a statement midnight. Among others, it said that it was going to continue to oppose the e-levy, and then said, quote, the appropriation bill for 2021 to cater for ordinary government business for 2022 has just been passed. The killer e-levy bill is yet to be considered by Parliament. For the avoidance of doubt, the minority will continue its opposition to the e-levy. We in the minority remain committed to exploring lawful and democratic means of getting the government to abandon this insensitive, obnoxious, and regressive tax. We have been informed earlier, and this is not quoting, I've finished with him, that the telcos, MTN and Airtel, have decided to reduce their person-to-person mobile money transfers by 25%. as their way of supporting consumers should the electronic transfer levy become law?
Well, Samson, it is very clear to me that the e-levy has not been well thought through. You remember the last week or so when I mentioned the issue of the 241 million, which was going to be spent to collect it, and the fact that even at that point, it wasn't clear how or who was going to do that. Now that has changed. I hear it's going to be GRA, which I think is the proper thing to do. A number of tinkerings going on. There were negotiations about the rate, and now we are back to the telcos must reduce, their charge. Clearly, the e-levy hasn't been well thought through. There have been hasty consultations here and there, and that e-levy thing is we're not going to gain as much as they are saying it will gain. The research is there, okay, and it's going to do some damage to the digitalization. There are all kinds of issues around e-levy, but the fundamental issue is not to go into e-levy itself as a matter. It is, are we on the path of law? Is what we are doing proper? Is the budget passed or not? The appropriations going down and whatever, is it proper? I mean, I don't have a problem if it is properly being done and some of the decisions don't go in a way that I like. I worry about us doing things properly, doing things right. And back to what Speaker Bagby said, he clearly made the point that some of the things that have happened are unlawful. They were not properly done. They are procedurally erroneous. They are anomalous. They are not right. And can we carry on just like that as if everything is fine? Everything is not fine. And it matters that we do things properly, because if we don't, we are undermining the Constitution. It will come back and bite us. So I think there must be a pause somewhere. There must be a reset, and let's get things back into place. The executive has authority by virtue of the fact that they are in power to do what they believe is best for us. The rest of us also have a right to voice our opinions about what we believe is right or wrong. But none of us has the right to do things against the law and against process and procedure. So for me, it's important that we go back and make sure that we are doing things right by process, by procedure, and by this Constitution we've all bound ourselves to.
Right. Yeah, do you think that both sides will take a cue from the concluding conciliatory posture of the Speaker for things to move on without any further processes that seek to draw us back And the minority has issued a statement, and they clearly say, as for the e-levy, it won't happen.
Yes, I think that we must have a positive view of what is happening in Parliament, especially because we don't have precedents. We don't have a charted path for what we are seeing now. In 2008, we barely missed a situation where the opposition would have been a majority in Parliament, whilst the government would have been headed by a minority president. And now we have a hanged Parliament where it's virtually equal. So we are all feeling our way forward. And in that context, I like Bagben's attitude. We need to work together to lay out the principles as we go forward within the ambit of the law, as Kofi is also saying. But we cannot assume a posture where we say we are wrong before we start. And that is where I disagree with Kofi. I think we have a parliament. We managed to elect a speaker under quite riotous circumstances. We are again proceeding forward on a budget for everybody to at least be able to do government business. And it is the opposition's right to insist on what they think they believe is wrong with the e-levy. And it's the government's opportunity and duty to convince Ghana that the e-levy is right. So I am for the e-levy, and I am for working with the New Patriotic Party to support the government to bring Ghanaians on board. But everything that is happening in Parliament now, I see as an opportunity. We must, as we go forward, distinguish the difficulties, the wrong paths, and expand the correct paths. All we don't know now is that we don't know which path is right or wrong. But together, as parties, and that is where I am supporting Babin's conciliatory tone, that as parties, we need to work together to find mutual paths that are right, as against insisting on being wrong. Nobody, where we don't have a previous situation where we can align with, nobody can be right or wrong at this time. And the population shouldn't fear the noise. The population of Ghana shouldn't be afraid of us trying to find a way forward. Because of the nature of our politics, it will be loud, it will be acrimonious, it will be riotous, but at the end of the day, it will settle down. And that is why I have absolute confidence in the system we have set for ourselves. Otherwise, the alternative is dire, which is a collapse literally of the fourth Republican setup. But it has served us well. It has served us for 30 years. It is our responsibility, majority and minority, to find ways forward that will grow the Fourth Republic rather than diminish it. And I think Speaker Bagben is on the right path. And I think the first Deputy Speaker, Joe Osei, was very courageous to do what he did. And he's also on the right path, just as Bagben acknowledged. The way forward is that we must acknowledge and believe that we are all serving Ghana and that we have our rights and our duties. Those who have a duty, as they believe, to oppose it, must convince Ghana, not merely on the basis of fatuous opposition. We must oppose because we are the opposition. We are being emotional. We are trying to sit on the emotions of the Ghanaian person without clarifying the alternatives, and therefore we oppose for opposition's sake. That cannot help Ghana.
All right.
But at the same time, merely putting forward a policy without explaining the nuances can also not convince Ghana. So I am with the government. Something.
Yeah, so as you understand, now that they have approved the appropriation, taking into consideration all the concessions and everything else, the Speaker's direction and advice is that the minister should come back with an amendment that takes care of the concessions so that will now be adopted.
that was advice. It wasn't put in a motion. Somebody must put it from the floor. But my understanding is that those concessions have been taken off in committee at appropriations level. And that is how come they have, the House has passed the Appropriations Act.
Okay.
So in passing the Appropriations Act, now individual legislation must come up to deal with the taxes that are going to be imposed. And that is where the House will then again look at how those taxes are going to be spent.
All right.
And so I think we are on track.
All right. Thank you.
I genuinely feel we're on track.
All right.
It looks disorganized.
All right.
But it is organized disorder.
All right. Organized disorder. Thank you very much. And stay on there because our very final issue. We need you very much on that. And I can see that you are right there in the Garden City for the conference. Yes, Koku.
Something.
Yes.
Before you go to Koku, the billboards are down. And we are grateful to the New Patriotic Party.
Right.
The people who want to lead the party are responsible enough.
Yeah.
And they have brought down their own billboards.
Yeah,
I want to congratulate them.
We will talk about that shortly. I was in Kumasi a couple of weeks ago and I saw the whole place was awash. And I'm like, really? Okay, so Koku, what do you say? This way will see us to ending the budget debates well?
I'm not too sure what's going on. See, an appropriation bill passed on what basis? There must be an approved budget before you trigger committees working on estimates and appropriations in order for a final point about passing the appropriation bill. I don't know. I'm a bit cornered here because I'm not sure, and I haven't checked. I've tried some checks, nobody is responding, whether the finance minister, in response to the proposal of the speaker, returned to the House with modifications. Don't forget there had been an earlier letter of modification.
He has not gone back yet. The speaker was talking about the letter he received and then made the suggestions.
Yes, so... See,
he says don't come with a letter. Incorporate it into an amended budget.
Which budget drove the committee's work relative to estimates and eventually the plenary passing the appropriations bill? Which budget? Which one? The one that was rejected or the one that was approved?
So, point 2, he said that these modifications and concessions will then be adopted by the House, and the revised document with the estimate will stand committed to the various committees of Parliament. Then he ended by saying, I am aware the committees have begun consideration of the estimate. It will thus be their responsibility to reconcile the revised estimate with what they have hitherto considered and submit a report for the consideration of the House.
The committees had already started work on the estimate.
That's right.
What was it on?
That budget.
Which budget?
The one that was restored.
So what was all the noise about? Because see, let me tell you something. In terms of parliamentary practice, when a budget is approved, even unanimously, it goes through those committee stages. For instance, something like the e-levy, it will come in the form of a bill. And they all change. They don't remain the same in terms of exactitude. At the end of the day, the sequencing, the approval of the principles and the policies, which is the budget, even if it's unanimous, by the end of the day, when it comes to passing the appropriation bill to make it an act, it is not the same. Some changes would have happened. Some amendments, some modifications, and things would have happened. Now, in this case, there had been an earlier letter of modifications to the speaker. Of course, I think it was in his absence. Okay? Now, when the speaker returned and made the statement that he made, the impression I had was that the finance minister also returned, perhaps to modify the modification. I'm asking whether that happened because I don't know.
Right.
I've tried to check, nobody is responding. Okay? So, if he did, then it means that it was in consonance with what the Speaker was saying. If he did not, and they relied on the old letter of modification, what was all the noise about? Because really, there should have been no real tension and controversy, in the sense that the members of parliament would have had the opportunity to use the committee level dealing with the estimates and the appropriation bill becoming an act to modify that very budget that was supposedly rejected.
And Note asked me a question. He says, what are the committees debating? Well, they have actually approved.
They have approved.
If the budget statement was not duly approved, well,
it's a good question.
They have not only debated, but they have approved. He's asking if Parliament is not misleading we the people. Can the Speaker speak clearly on an illegality and overlook its legal impact? It does appear that's how he was speaking. Was the action of the Deputy Speaker not deliberate and conscious and designed to favor his party? Was he therefore not in conscious breach of parliamentary procedure and the Constitution? What has happened?
Look, let me borrow Kofi.
There's a case that has gone to the Supreme Court, but it is not on all the issues, just one aspect of the issues. So let's see how it goes.
That case at the Supreme Court must be pursued to its logical conclusion.
All right.
Going forward. It will help clear some of the gray areas. So I'm in principle for it. But you see, to borrow Kofi's beautiful wording today, elegant ambiguity, I love it. I'm in love with that. You see, in terms of even the counting, the first Deputy Speaker counting himself, Speaker Bagme was not too categorical in dismissing it. Let me read paragraph 26. It says, by and large, the reasoning of the first Deputy Speaker outlined the fact that he is not the Speaker. He holds his membership and does not lose his privileges as a member when he takes the chair can be said to be correct. However, insofar as he takes on the role of the acting Speaker of Parliament, his decision to be counted as part of the numbers forming a quorum raises procedural challenges. This is not a categorical dismissal of his consent, what the first Deputy Speaker did. He proceeds further with paragraph 27, which is quite interesting. Honorable members, although our standing orders are silent on this, and that's why the Supreme Court matter is important, because standing orders are subordinate to the Constitution.
That's right.
Many standing orders and rules from several sister parliaments provide persuasive, so he's gone external, rules which suggest that when the Deputy Speaker or the acting speakers are in the chair, whatever happens in the House is that officer's responsibility, and the Speaker cannot be called upon to overrule it. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Similarly, the reverse is also the case, that when the Speaker is in the chair, whatever happens in the House is the Speaker's responsibility, and the Deputy Speaker or acting Speaker cannot be called upon to overrule it.
Just like Joe Wise did. So he people understood he was conciliatory when he says, you couldn't have overruled what I did, but you have done so. I am not also allowed to overrule what you did.
Yes.
So let's not repeat the mess.
So this is stalemate.
That's why Note is asking, you have seen an illegality and you say we should be okay with it.
It's a good question, but that's why the Supreme Court perhaps is the ultimate forum for us to litigate and resolve this matter.
But that analogy he gave,
which is,
many people are excited about that. When he said, if the president took a decision in cabinet and the vice president was taking over, can the vice president overturn that decision?
There was a catch in there. Otherwise, I was going to say that was just gross oversimplification. But you see, there was a catch. He said without consultation.
That's right.
With the president.
That's right.
That I thought was a catch. So that it showed that the first Deputy Speaker did not contact him or consult him.
With him.
Maybe because it should have happened, in my candid opinion. They should have had some, collaboration and cooperation.
So from where you come from, the budget is done. It's done deal.
I think so.
But the minority statements say that, yeah, we are done, but the e-levy stands.
But that's part of the problem I had with them. That thing was bound to happen. It will be brought in the form of a bill for the House to deal with. Even it's in the budget, it's accepted, but it's not finality.
All right.
It comes back in the form of a bill, and the 1.75 could end up being 1%, could end up being 1.5.
All right.
That is the nature of parliamentary work and practice. But there was something very that I dictated. And
quickly, then we take a break and return to conclude on the... When we come back, we'll not go to this issue anymore. Right.
Okay, see, I had a difficulty. The Speaker cited some precedents in making his case. And I was a bit confused. Some of the precedents were specific, quorum specific. Also, once he did that, there were areas that for me, was like, we have different forms of quorum. The ones for commencing business and doing it. And then those when a decision is being taken.
Right.
And I thought there was some confusion of the two in the submission of...
He spoke about it generally.
Yes, but it's important for students of parliamentary history that we clarify some of these things. See, I heard, and before the Speaker, I'd heard some NDC members of parliament and communicators going in that path about reference to votes and proceedings as the basis to determine members of parliament who were present either in the House or on the floor. I have a difficulty with what the Speaker did, and I found something very significant. In all the precedents he cited, he did not mention December 22nd, 2015 incident.
What happened?
Which is the most important of all these matters. That day was the day Batnodro was presiding. They were dealing with the 1 billion sovereign bond.
Batnodro was first deputy.
First deputy. And they concluded virtually. Head count was, votes were taken. And Bagman, majority leader then, raised an issue with what was happening in Parliament. And actually, at the end of the day, Babin's argument, and I'll read that portion. See, it says, Mr. Speaker, we are 275 members. Half of that is 138. Mr. Speaker, I believe that we are more than 138, so we satisfy the constitutional provision. Therefore, it is incumbent on Mr. Speaker, to announce the results. The counting then was done. When the counting was done, the ayes had 66, that's the government side. And then the noes had 67. Abstention was nil. When then the first deputy speaker comes in, he says, if you add the two, we have 133. Half of our figure is 138. Therefore, it is defeated. Though Ajawo came in to take charge and resolve the thing, this telling the whole world through on the parliamentary floor that was the first time the House had been confronted with that situation. Now listen to Ajawo. He says there is a quorum to do business, and that is 1/3 of the House, and there's a quorum to take a decision. So we need to draw a distinction between the quorum to do business and the quorum to take a decision. The quorum to take a decision is regulated by Article 1041, so and so. Right. The fundamental question is that the time that the vote was taken, did we have at least half of the honorable members present? It is a constitutional issue which has been captured in Standing Order 1091 of our standing orders. If we go by the results of the head count, by adding 67 to 66, we will get 133. Therefore, there is a serious constitutional issue there. So at the time that the votes were taken in this House, this House lacked the legal and in fact the constitutional capacity to take a decision.
Okay.
Once we lack the constitutional capacity to take a decision, that is what will be read into the Hansard. The 66 and the 67, as we speak, is what the Hansard has captured. And that is what somebody could take a court action on. Now, significantly, Speaker Bagwin omitted this particular...
So this position is the one that says, at the time the vote will be made,
yeah,
that time, material time, you check the number on
there,
the floor.
On the floor. You don't go for votes.
And Bagwin says that is not what it is. It must be those who have come to Parliament that day to work.
But let me prove to you why he was wrong. On this same day that he was quoting 138, on basis of what? He said we are 275.
Right.
Okay? On that day, this is the votes and proceedings for that particular day.
Okay.
The members present were 256.
Okay.
19 absent.
All right.
So if we're talking about what he was saying, votes on things, then the number they needed was 128 and not 138. Okay. I don't know if you get my drift.
I get you. All right. Interesting things that have taken place in our parliament. We are taking a break, and when we return, we will go to the Ashanti region to check what is going on there. The NPP has a number of things it wants to do. Some individual members have proposed some amendments to their constitution. Will those carry? And as you watch and listen to our very final edition of Newsfile for the year 2021, please follow me to the prisons. Prison Change with Samson Ladi. Please, the Momo line is 059 303 8768. Take down that Momo number as you see on your screens. And for those of you listening by radio, once again, 059 303 8768. And spare your change with me as I go to the prisons. If they come out of that place feeling loved, and if they come out of that place really rehabilitated and transformed, it is to all of us our best interest. And of course, there are people on remand. They have not been found guilty for doing anything just because somebody has not picked them to their next date in court. They are in prison and spending forever there. So we want to see how we can help. And you can call to Joy FM, or if you're in Kumasi, call to Love FM and indicate that you want to support the prison change with some supplies, food items, or toiletries, or any provisions that you want to give. Meanwhile, you can send message. For those of you who are sharing the flyer, which contains the Momo number, thank you so very much. On Facebook, I can see Alvis Paul has shared it. Avaji Solomon, you are all asking people to contribute. Fuseina Isa, Patrick Ofori, Kate Paul, Young Makal, Joseph Kojoentri, James Aite, Cordelia Ama Selome, Kofi Adade, Ayuba Ibrahim Abednego, Ketre KN Ampofo, Johnson Walanyo Amudi, Efa Ajman Brako of Chebi Apapam. Thank you all. Tahiru Ibrahim, Solomon Adomako Ansa, Etiahene Kojo, Gar Paul, Onza Yin, Angela Ajayi, Lawrence Ayi Ablo, Frank Ofori, the Chelsea man. Thank you also, Matanko Osman, Kofi Owusu Adame, that's my producer there, and John Hobson. Thank you. John Hobson says, this is one project I am excited about. If for nothing, it brings to the forefront the injustice being done in our justice system. Donate, for there are some in there who should not be there. Thank you. Please donate. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Evans Mensah, and you can relive all the fun and excitement on Top Story, Newsnight, and of course, Ghana Connect via podcast. All you need to do is to log on to my Joy Online/podcast. Search for your favorite show and relive the moment. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And this is your very final edition for 2021. I can assure you that the first edition in 2022, you will love it. Get ready. We'll do something very different and you will enjoy it. So just get ready for that. in this extended time we are ending at 12:30, and you can't help but join Joy Sports. The clock is ticking as Ghana works to meet the timelines to host the Africa Games 2023. How much urgency are we placing on this? Have all resources been made available to get the big job done? Answers will be provided on the Joy Sports link on Joy 99.7 FM from 12:30. Be a part of the conversation with Nathaniel Abdul, the man who has love for sports, and his guest, Dr. Kweku Ofosu-Asare, Chairman, Local Organizing Committee, Accra 2023 Africa Games. So get ready for that in about 20 minutes. Now, let me start with Yawabian Samwa. Yao, thank you very much. And please remember, I'm going to the prisons and I need your support. The prison officers are doing a good job taking care of the people that find themselves there, but they need a bit more help. And we're trying to see how much we can assist. So please also remember to take down the Momo number and help us to reach out to help some people, particularly in the Christmas. Also, let us feel that we really want them to transform and that we have not sent them there to starve to death and suffer diseases unnecessarily. So you are in Kumasi, and this is the most important, the apex decision-making body of your party, not so? Hello, Yao. Right, please unmute.
Can you hear me?
Great, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me, Samson?
I can hear you now.
Very fast.
Right.
Okay.
So
my first comment is that you are graying very fast, so be careful. So when you add the prisons thing, then you are in serious crisis.
I hear you.
So the government itself is conscious of the prison situation. And you remember the Justice for All initiative, as well as the improvements to the legal aid, which has now become Legal Aid Commission.
That's
more
right.
Empowerment. So
that's right.
I pledge to support you.
Thank you very much.
I pledge to support you from the party side, and then to encourage the government to partner you to do more.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So now, being in Kumasi, as we understand, the Baba Yara Stadium is a place of a flurry of activities, and more important on the agenda is going to be some of the amendments that some of the members are seeking to introduce. Am I right?
You are perfectly right. What we have now is a two-pronged situation. One is that we must engage the people of Ghana in this meeting as to their interests going forward as we try and move out of the post-COVID economy. We must begin to understand and appreciate what's at stake when you have COVID impacting more than health. It impacts probably economy more than health, because when you have one person being infected, several thousands have to stop everything they are doing, either going to lockdown or confirm their status. So that's very important. And that is on the agenda. How is the party supporting the government to get the people of Ghana engaged? And part of that is what is happening in Parliament and the e-levy and all that. How do we finance ourselves to move beyond the traditional means which are not working now, especially having been exposed by COVID? So that is what we are doing here. Then, of course, the thorny issue of billboards. I am happy to announce and to congratulate the people involved that most of them have brought down their billboards. For those who say it's an infringement on their rights, the party says that we simply are not ready to start a leadership context now. We are with the president We presented the president to the people of Ghana. His performance has been appreciated by the people and they have voted for him. And it is our duty as a political party to support him to execute his vision. And that vision is the vision of the party. Nobody in the party can now come up, whether party or government, and say that they have a different vision.
The president has cautioned that those who are peaking ahead of their time, they are better off just putting their ministerial jobs down so that they can concentrate on wanting to become president. Don't you see a problem if you approve the amendments seeking to have elections for a flag bearer 2 years into the elections when you are in power? Don't you see that bringing a problem? And one of your stalwarts, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, has written about that you don't make that mistake. If you do that, you are focusing too much on elections rather than helping the country develop.
It is sad that the president is compelled at this stage to make that announcement. And therefore, if we listen the way we have listened and brought down our billboards, then the very persons who are supporting the president to deliver on his mandate will remain committed until the appropriate time when they start working on their own personal ambitions, which in any case are designed to lead the party. The party is in power and the party says that please wait until we are ready for your purposes. So the president is compelled. The president is not doing this happily. He is compelled to say generally, and we are mature very, very fast. And I believe that it's incumbent on all of us to understand what is happening. What is happening is that now political parties, as distinct from presidential candidates and presidents, are coming into prominence. When we started president focus to the 8-year cycle, a president political party agenda of the presidents, and that political parties can continue with different presidents but maintain the policies that they have. And this is what the MPP is trying to do. We are owning all the good policies since the Fourth Republic, all the policies MPP governments have made, and we are asking for a leadership beyond Nanado who will implement those policies, continue with the best, refine the worst, and bring new ideas to complement what we are doing already.
Yeah. So to the specific question of the amendments that are being proposed, they are supposed to be
the 24-month amendment.
Right.
Samson, this is not the first time that has been canvassed. Every time we have a competition, people canvass it for fear of what the competition will do to the party. And now, because it's a process that has been tabled before the party, I do not have a personal opinion, but I will venture a third-party opinion, which does not bind the party. Does that make sense?
I'm listening.
Does that make sense?
I'm listening.
As for Kubako, if I can venture a third-party opinion that does not bind the party, because I'm communications director, and whatever I say could bind the party. Does that make sense that I offer a third-party opinion?
Please go ahead.
Very well. What I am saying is that rather than legislate against potential disagreement, we must rather contain disagreement and engage, because we have a democracy. And therefore, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But rather, let us embrace competition. But let us compete within the confines of the beautiful. Let us not compete to damage. Let us not compete to destroy. Because those who are making the proponents of the 24-month rule are saying that for fear of competition that can destroy, let us settle the matter early. I don't think in the wisdom of the larger party settling the matter early means electing another president, because you have two presidents running for 2 years over the rest of the term. But we have given the term to one president who is in charge. And therefore, we must be prepared to compete, but compete in a civil situation. Compete within the rules that the party sets up. Compete so that the party becomes stronger rather than weaker. And that is what I stand for. And therefore, when we go, the proponents of that will come up and argue, and those against it will also argue.
Yeah.
But on my
Dr. Arthur Kennedy, for example, says that you should be focused on taking a lesson from the NDC and expand those who will vote for presidential candidates, so that, because that has the potential to reduce the influence through money. What do you say about that?
I am saying that this whole notion of money is over-exaggerated. How much money is at stake? Let us agree that we are running a system that is growing. I am always an eternal optimist when it comes to dealing with the democratic experiment we have in Ghana. It's not as if it is complete and we are derogating from it. We are now building it. So whatever we are building, we must keep refining based on the lessons of the past. And the lessons show us that, yes, when delegates come to vote for you, they need to be accommodated. They need transportation. They need food. So somebody must bear those basic expenses. But that is not the essence of the decision we are going to make. The decision is who can best manage the policies, collective policies of the party, add on and convince the people of Ghana to let us continue in government. That is the basic assumption that we must make our people understand.
All right. As a communications, lead for the party, the question of increasing the national NASARA coordinators, what do you have to say about that? Is that not good for your grassroots work?
Again, it has been seen in two ways. The negative way is that people are saying that it will increase the chances of somebody who is associated with NASARA because you get more votes for that person to lead the party. The positive is that every community in this country has a NASARA element, and that they can best be deployed at that local level. But it is a question that we must debate dispassionately as a party. If we debate it in the heat of emotions about who we support for leadership of the party, our conclusions will be wrong. We must debate every proposal in the context of how it empowers the party, how it energizes the party, irrespective of who ultimately will lead the party. Because it is the party that the leader will take to the elections. So the focus should not be on the leader. The focus should be on empowering and strengthening the party so that the leader will take a very powerful machine forward.
Okay. Thank you very much, Yabuabia Samoa. You can take leave of us now. Thank you so much. And we wish you a very fruitful deliberation.
I want to ask a final question, something.
Yes, please.
Something, will you vote for the MPP?
Oh. let's get to the election time. I will make my decision.
My final question. Something, I hear you are going to be running in 2024. But I don't know which party.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no interest in running for political office. Yes, Koku, what do you make? The NASARA coordinator thing, they are reading all meanings into it, that if they increase the NASARA coordinators, it will favor Baumea. Arthur Kennedy says, why are you focusing on electing a flag bearer now, and then they will disagree with the president? What the president does, he must endorse it or something, and it will bring conflict. And then rather focus on taking the NDC's example, expand the delegate base so that you remove the vote buying.
Well, to be honest with you, this NASARA thing, it's creating some undercurrents. And I would advise them to be very cautious how they go about it. Not that I've studied it thoroughly, but within their own environment, the things I'm hearing, and you made a point that they think is to favor one particular personality, in this case, the vice president.
Right.
Yes. So I would ask them to be a bit cautious how they go about it. And then the 2 years selecting a flag bearer 2 years ahead of elections. It's unsustainable. It's not in their interest. It's a source of distraction. I think they should abandon that particular project. And then the third one, those who are showing their presidential ambitions prematurely. I mean, the first year of the second term, my advice to the president, if he will listen, is that if by mid next year, intelligence points to, and those things, the president will make comments as reported by Asase Radio based on intelligence, not just rumor. If it continues, he should reshuffle those gentlemen or just send them to Siberia.
I see. Yeah. Interesting. Kofi, what do you make of at least these three issues that we have raised in the matters that should come up?
Samson, I am sorely tempted, and I'll try and restrain myself. But look, the MPP seems to be in a difficult position. I wish they were not in such a difficult position. If, for instance, it was clear where they would go, then it may not have been necessary to do this at this time. I agree with those who are saying it may be premature. Because indeed, imagine this. If a clear front runner emerges now, or somebody is anointed more or less to be the next flag bearer, it would totally emasculate the present government. Everybody's going to start, focusing on that because he is likely to be the next person. And it will have an effect on the existing government. So they have to choose, between a rock and a hard place. However, I think something is missing in this whole discussion. There is a place for backroom, off-stage negotiations in politics, especially on a national scale like this. Not everything must be thrown out into the open and let people slug it out. That creates too much bad blood and negative side effects. So I would have thought that this is the time for the elders of the party. And honestly, is this the Rochas party? I remember in 1991, you had people who you knew were solid and they could call people to book, they could tell people to sit, and they would tell people to stand. And you will sit or stand. And I think that I miss something like that in the MPP, where elders sit in back rooms and they look at what is in the best interest of the country first, and then the party, and arrange things, and people get along. I mean, putting this out this way, holding people's hands in one breath, and then in another breath also trying to tell them to show their face, trying to see how things are going to play out in the open so that people can take their positions, tells me of a party which is not well organized in the back. And there is a place for that kind of backroom negotiation, even horse trading, to make sure that, look, we are going to go towards something that's good for everybody.
Thank you so very much. Thank you to all my guests for this morning. This is where we draw the curtains and we say thank you all over the years and for this year. If we continue to remain number one, and I mean number one, truly no competition whatsoever, close, it is because you have kept faith with us. Thank you so very much. Please keep looking for my Momo and contribute and call to joy, call to love, and bring whatever support that you can bring to support me as I go into the prisons. My outfit is by Abdul's Couture, and you can call them 0200 84 19 88. Have a good afternoon, and I wish you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.